Like, subscribe, and leave a comment if you can handle the darkest stories ever told. Because what happens next doesn't end when the screen goes black. At 5:42 a.m. on Christmas morning, the siren cut through the frozen silence of Florence, Colorado. It wasn't the kind of alarm that meant celebration or routine. Inside ADX Florence, the most isolated prison on Earth, it meant something had gone wrong. The lights along the concrete corridors flickered from dim blue to blinding white. Steel doors remained sealed, but guards stopped mid-step. For a place built to never lose control, even the smallest disruption felt catastrophic. Outside, snow settled quietly on the empty plains. Inside, Christmas had already begun the way it always did here. Alone. ADX Florence was designed to erase time. Inmates spent 23 hours a day in single concrete cells the size of a parking space, sealed behind solid steel doors. No bars. No cellmates. No noise but the hum of ventilation and the echo of their own thoughts. Christmas didn't bring decorations or music. It brought something worse, memory. By 6 a.m., Officer Daniel Reeves began his rounds. Reeves had worked ADX for 9 years, long enough to know that holidays were dangerous. Not because inmates became violent, but because they became quiet. Too quiet. Christmas amplified everything this prison tried to suppress. Regret, rage, grief. Reeves checked each narrow window, scanning faces behind thick glass. Most inmates sat on their bunks, motionless. Some stared at the wall. One whispered to himself, counting years. Cell D, 17, belonged to Marcus Hale. Hale had arrived at ADX 15 years earlier after a crime that made national headlines. A former getaway driver turned mastermind. He was serving multiple life sentences with no possibility of release. On the outside, the world had moved on. On the inside, Christmas froze time. Hale usually followed routine perfectly. He stood when required, ate when told, never spoke unless spoken to. This morning, he didn't respond. Reeves tapped the reinforced glass. Hale! No movement. At 7 a.m., breakfast trays slid through slots in the doors. Powdered eggs, a biscuit, a small carton of milk. Christmas or not, the menu barely changed. Some inmates refused to eat on holidays. Others saved the biscuit like a ritual, something to mark the day as different. Hale's tray remained untouched. By 9 a.m., the prison chaplain broadcast a brief Christmas message over the intercom. Carefully worded, stripped of warmth. No hymns, no mentions of family. Just neutral phrases about endurance and reflection. Inmates listen alone, the sound echoing off concrete walls. For some, it was the only human voice they would hear all day. At 11:30 a.m., Officer Reeves returned to D-17 with a supervisor. Protocol required visual confirmation. Reeves leaned in again. Hale sat on the floor now, his back against the wall, head lowered. His hands were visible. No signs of struggle. No blood. Just stillness. Marcus. Reeves said louder this time. Nothing. By noon, Christmas lunch arrived. Slightly better than usual. A piece of turkey loaf. Instant mashed potatoes. A cookie. For many inmates, this was the most dangerous hour of the day. The food reminded them of what they'd lost. Families. Tables. Voices calling their names. Hale didn't reach for the tray. At 1:15 p.m., the decision was made to open the cell. This almost never happened. Emergency response teams assembled in silence, dressed in black tactical gear. Weapons ready though no threat had been confirmed. The steel door to D-17 unlocked with a heavy mechanical groan, echoing down the corridor like a warning. When the door finally opened, the officer stepped inside and froze. Marcus Hale was alive, but carved into the concrete wall behind him, etched carefully over hours with sharpened fragment of metal, were 3 words that none of them were prepared to see on Christmas Day. I remembered everything. If you think that was intense, hit subscribe and leave a comment, because what happens next inside ADX Florence will haunt you longer than any Christmas memory. By 1:30 p.m., the calm of the prison corridors was replaced with tension so thick it could be sliced with a knife. Officers hovered near D-17, weapons lower but ready watching Marcus Hale. His head lifted slowly, revealing eyes that were sharper, colder, and infinitely more calculating than anyone remembered. Those 3 words etched into the wall, "I remembered everything," weren't just a confession. They were a warning. Hale stood, methodically, almost ceremoniously. He ran a finger along the grooves he had carved, each letter a testament to his time, patience, and isolation. Officers exchanged nervous glances. Christmas at ADX was quiet, predictable, controlled, but Hale had shifted the rhythm. Suddenly, the entire prison seemed like a different place. Shadows felt deeper, corners darker, walls closer. By 2 p.m., news spread like wildfire through a controlled network of intercoms. Staff reported small anomalies: a missing broom, an unlocked supply closet, the faint metallic scrape echoing in a distant wing. Not enough for panic, but enough to remind everyone that even the most isolated walls could not contain human ingenuity. Hale began moving with precision, following a path that mirrored every guard's steps from a morning rounds. Nothing was random. Every detail observed, every weakness noted. It was a game he had been planning for years, though no one knew the rules yet. At 3:15 p.m., the warden arrived personally, a figure draped in authority. But even he hesitated outside D-17. Hale's message on the wall had sent shockwaves not just through the prison, but through the hearts of everyone responsible for keeping men like him contained. "Have you been threatening the staff?" the warden asked, his voice tight. Hale smiled faintly, an almost imperceptible twitch. "No, I've just remembered the world outside," he said. By 4 p.m., officers discovered a hidden message in Hale's tray. Beneath the biscuit wrapper was a tiny folded note, etched with painstaking precision. A set of coordinates and the words, "Look closely where no one sees." The discovery threw the prison into a controlled frenzy. Officers doubled rounds, checked every cell, monitored every surveillance feed. Every corner was scrutinized, every step measured. Yet Hale remained calm, composed, almost regal in his isolation. By 5:30 p.m., rumors spread among inmates. Hale's calm defiance inspired whispers. "He sees things we don't. He knows things they'll never admit." For the first time in years, ADX Florence felt alive, not with joy, but with fear. At 6:45 p.m., a critical observation was made, a pattern in the security footage. Hale had been using the slight delay in door locks, the movement of guards, and even the rhythm of meal delivery to create micro-opportunities. Each movement calculated, each action deliberate. It wasn't rebellion, it was strategy. By 8 p.m., the day's last count was due. Officers gathered at Central Control, watching cameras, reviewing logs. Hale was seated on his bunk, quietly watching, waiting. The realization hit every officer present. Even on Christmas Day, the most isolated prison in the world could be outmaneuvered, not by force, but by mind. Then, just before lights out, Hale leaned toward the wall again. Using nothing but a sharpened piece of his metal tray, he etched another line beneath the first 3 words. "And I will not forget next year." The echo of that message would carry through the night, leaving every guard and inmate questioning the meaning of freedom, memory, and the true cost of isolation. If you felt the tension so far, brace yourself. What unfolds next will make you rethink everything you thought you knew about ADX Florence. Hit subscribe and comment your thoughts, because the final hours of this Christmas are unlike anything the prison has ever seen. By 7 a.m. on December 26, the prison had returned to its eerie stillness. But the events of yesterday lingered like smoke in every corridor. Officers whispered in hushed tones about Hale's note and the patterns discovered in his movements. Every cell became a potential trap, every shadow a possible witness. The entire facility was on edge. At 9 a.m., a young officer named Daniels discovered something unsettling in the laundry room, a faint scratch along the floor, almost invisible, forming a trail toward the old ventilation shaft. Panic surged quietly. Could Hale have created an escape plan without anyone noticing? Every officer knew it was impossible, but nothing at ADX was ever truly impossible. By noon, Hale was calm as ever. He sat cross-legged, staring at the ceiling, as if drawing invisible lines connecting every guard, every door, every camera. In his silence, there was power. In his observation, there was control. At 2:30 p.m., the warden convened an emergency meeting. Staff reviewed every inch of footage, every movement, every anomaly. And then they found it, a hidden map etched behind Hale's cell panel. Coordinates, timings, instructions, a Christmas puzzle only he could assemble. By 4 p.m., security teams moved swiftly. Hale was led from his cell for a routine check. But the air was electric. Something was about to happen. Every step he took echoed through the hallways. Every eye followed his movements. At 5:15 p.m., Hale reached the recreation yard. For a moment, the sun glinted off the walls, and the world outside seemed to seep in. But then the shocking twist. Hale had hidden nothing dangerous, no weapons, no escape tools. Instead, he had left a series of letters for every inmate, carefully placed, recounting personal reflections, regrets, and lessons learned. A mental gift, not a physical threat. The prison was stunned. Inmates read silently. Officers watched in disbelief. And the warden's face betrayed a rare mix of admiration and dread. Hale had reminded everyone why he was feared, not for violence, but for intellect. Even in isolation, even on Christmas, he could shape minds and influence hearts. By 6:30 p.m., the day's events concluded. No alarms, no chaos, yet an unspoken tension hung in the air. ADX Florence had survived another holiday, but the story of yesterday's night patrol would linger in every corner for years to come. Hale returned to his cell, a faint smile on his lips. His power had not been broken. It had been reaffirmed. Even in isolation, even in the world's most secure prison, the mind was the ultimate weapon. And as the gates closed tonight, one chilling thought remained with every officer and inmate. Christmas had come and gone, but in ADX Florence, the shadows of the holiday and of Hale's mind would never leave. If you thought this story was intense, hit subscribe. You're not ready for the next one. The real darkness of ADX Florence is only just beginning.